Hey everybody, welcome back to the road to Avengers Doomsday, and today's film is The Punisher. Side note, before we deep dive into this, if you are interested in watching The Punisher, good luck finding it, because apparently it isn't on any streaming service. You can watch it on YouTube, but you need a subscription to some premium thing, or you have to subscribe to one of Amazon Prime's weird channel thingies for like $4 a month, or you can do a 7-day free trial, which is what I did, thank God, because I wasn't paying more than that for it. So technically I watched it for free, which was good. But yeah, weird that this movie doesn't have any kind of renting ability. I don't know why. There's nothing in it really that looks like there would be a rights issue, or like if it's violent or anything like that. But I don't know. It's weird. I couldn't find anything when I researched it either. So just heads up if you're trying to watch it. I remember watching this one as a kid a lot, and I vaguely think I liked it as a kid, but I think I watched it a few years later, and rewatching it now, I think I understand why I don't go back to this one anymore. And it really has nothing to do with, again, I'm going to try not to make comparisons to the Punisher from John Berthrell's Punisher from Daredevil, which is obviously night and day to what this is. But I realize what the problem with the Punisher movie is now that I look back at it. And real quick, before we delve into anything specific, is that this whole movie, until from minute one to the very end, it's one giant origin story. And it seems to be, much like the Hulk movie was, it's setting up like the possibility of what will be the character from the comics next time, which I hate when movies do this. I hate when movies say, they give you a crappy first movie where they don't honor the source material and they do very little to honor the character, and then they promise you that it's going to get better. And very rarely do you get a chance to be better. And spoiler alert, this version of the Punisher, Thomas Jane's Punisher, was in limbo hell after this for like years. They kept trying to make another one, that it became... Thomas Jane really wanted to keep doing it. Like, he wanted to come back. He kept saying in interviews he was down. And every, 2 years, there was some slight movement, writers, directors, and then eventually Jane just walked off, and they rebooted it, and they made a sequel that I've never seen until we get to it in this series of reviews. And understandably why, because no one really felt like this movie understood the source material. Now, I knew Frank Castle and the Punisher from the Spider-Man show, so I knew him as a guy who, he went around with, bandana and the skull thing, and he beat up criminals and killed them. He had a guy named Micro in the van. I knew that, and I knew that all from the Spider-Man episodes that he was in. And I was like, okay, and obviously the Punisher in that show was muted down a bit because obviously it's a kid's show. I know that he kills people. If you come in from the Daredevil show, you obviously know he kills people. But the big problem with this is that they seem to be more interested in setting up this revenge movie, sort of like a spaghetti western kind of a thing, where it's him going after the guys that murdered his family, which, don't get me wrong, is a good beginning plot line to have, but it just feels kind of like a little too much, too little too late by the time we get to the end kind of a thing, and the setup for where he's ended doesn't quite make sense given what the movie was about. So the thing I like about it is that we start off easy enough. Frank Castle's this former Marine, former police undercover officer. He basically does this bust that kills a mobster's son, played by John Travolta, who I cannot take seriously with the wig he's wearing, or John Travolta being a mobster. Seriously, they should have picked anybody else. John Travolta is just, I don't know. I just laugh when I see John Travolta, predominantly because before I saw this movie, I had seen Battlefield Earth several times and made fun of it when I was younger, and I thought that was the dumbest movie ever, and I just couldn't take John Travolta seriously anymore. So, yeah, I don't know. Like, him playing a good guy is fine, or a nice, normal character is fine, but him playing a mob boss, I don't see it. I really don't see it. And so he does this bust. It results in John Travolta's son dying. And so John Travolta wants revenge, and he wants to kill Frank Castle, but his sexy wife, who overreacts way too much when she finds out her son's dead. Seriously, she falls backwards, in this weird shot. It's kind of funny. She wants the whole family killed. And I will say that's a strong indicator. They kill his entire family. He's at this family reunion, so they kill his parents, they kill his wife, they kill his kid, they kill everybody. They kill his grandmother, everybody. I mean, they don't make a very big deal of it. It's not a very emotional sequence because we just met these people. The only ones that they really keep an emotional through on is the wife and the kid, because we spend a little bit more time with them. Not much, obviously. But they don't pull on your heartstrings, which is fine. I'm not expecting them to. These are characters we met 5 seconds ago. Please don't make me, feel emotion for characters I just met, kind of a deal. It's hard to do that, especially with this origin story. So yeah, he dies. He gets healed up, and then he comes back to civilization. And something I thought was dumb in my rewatch that I never really noticed as a kid is that I always thought that he kind of kept it hidden, like they didn't know whether he was dead or alive, but he comes back, he takes his gravestone, he throws it on the golf course where John Travolta plays golf. So obviously they know something's up. And then he goes full public and comes out and says he's alive. And it was like, dude, you just blew the element of surprise. Like, now they know you're coming after them. They're going to prep up for war. They're going to send guys after you, which they start doing. And we'll talk about that in a second on how that one works out. And it just, I don't know, that was just weird. And I think what they were trying to do with him coming back and sort of making him his presence known is that he comes back 5 months after everybody's dead, and he goes back to the police station, and he learns that no one's been arrested. Mind you, I don't know how anyone's supposed to be arrested, because like I said, everybody's dead. Nobody called the cops. Frank's alive. He hasn't gone into like questioning to talk about what's going on. Nobody seems to have investigated who shot or done anything, even though there is caution tape at the place where the reunion is. But even if that's the case, they're the mob. They probably clean their tracks. There's probably no way to pin it on them, but we don't get any sort of reaction to that. And the point that I'm guessing they're trying to set up here is that Frank feels like the law can't do it. And that's, of course, what the character does in the comics. He feels like the law can't handle criminals, and so he takes care of it by killing them, rather than going through the criminal justice system or having them be arrested. They don't deserve that. They deserve to die because, they'll just come back and do it again, blah, blah, blah. But that really doesn't become his mantra until the very end of the movie, where he feels like the law can't deal with this stuff. And I'm like, dude, like, you didn't, like, what about the law failed here? The cops haven't, like, tried to do anything. They haven't caught anybody. You didn't tell them who tried to kill you. Obviously, they're not going to know who to go after. You don't even tell them who went after them. You just say that you're mad. So it didn't feel earned, like, at all. By the time we got to the end of the movie and he's like, yeah, I'm going to go after murderers and rapists and sadists and psychos and all these people. It's like, okay, great, but what exactly made you do that after your whole revenge bit? Like, he's going after these guys not so much because they're criminals, because they messed up his family, and even then, even when he's along the way, he kind of doesn't kill everybody. Like, I know I hate to make comparisons to the Punisher from Daredevil, but like, that Punisher killed everybody. Like, if you got in his way, he killed you. It didn't matter whether you were innocent, you were a bystander. Like, he barely had a code on that. It was, you get in his way, you die. But there's like, early in the movie, Thomas Jane kidnaps the bellhop guy, and instead of like doing anything fun to him, he hits him with, like, he says he's gonna burn him with a boatload torch, and you think, ooh, cool. Instead, he hits him with a popsicle stick. And it's like, okay, not very punishing there. In fact, as a movie called The Punisher, he really doesn't punish anybody when you really think about it. And we'll get to why that's true. He really doesn't start doing it until like the very last 20 seconds of the movie, really, like last 10 minutes of the movie. And then the tease of, okay, maybe next time he'll punish people. So yeah, they know he's alive. So obviously they start sending goons after him, and he lives in this apartment with some random like neighbors. One of whom is played by Rebecca Romijn, who's Mystique in the X-Men movies, but because this is Lionsgate's, we're in a different universe, so it's okay. And they're all kind of interested in him. Obviously, they see him on the news. They're trying to ask him questions. They try to be buddy-buddy with him for real no reason other than just to give him scenes with another person, and obviously give him some sort of like unrequited love from Rebecca Romijn, and it's kind of weird because it's like, your wife just died, dude. He doesn't want anything to do with her, and she's trying to like pine after him and whatever, and it's like, it's okay, it's nothing special. Like, they're off doing that, so they start sending people to kill him. They send one guy who sings them a song, which I thought was weird, and then instead of just shooting him, like, there's a really, it starts with like a cool scene because he comes in with this guitar case, and you figure he's got a gun in there, but no, he really just has a guitar, and he sings a song. Sings the song, puts the guitar away, says he's going to kill him, walks out, and then proceeds to drive after him, and then Frank kills him. Okay, and then they send the giant Russian guy after him, and that's probably the one scene everyone remembers about the movie where he fights him to the opera song in the background, and he gets his ass kicked. Like, and that's a really good scene, because it's him fighting this big brawling guy, and he keeps getting his ass handed to him, and by the way he ends up taking him out is pretty cool, and probably the most punishing he does in the whole movie, because the whole plot is based around the idea of he's going after John Travolta, and his plan isn't so much to kill everybody in the family or the group. It's that he's doing the traditional, I'm going to make the villain go cuckoo and think that everyone in his internal organization is messing with him. So he starts off by ruining like drug deals with these two Cuban guys that he's got money laundering operations with. They get pissed off at him, but then they kind of just disappear from the plot after their money gets stolen. I don't know. And then he sets up John Travolta's like second-hand man as cheating on his wife, when it turns out the second-hand man guy is actually gay, and the wife isn't doing anything wrong. She's just going to the movies every week. And I just didn't understand this. As a kid, I let it slide, but as an adult now watching it, I just realized something. You know that Frank Castle's back. Clearly, he's going to want revenge for you murdering his family, and yet John Travolta goes down the rabbit hole of insanity that his buddy is messing with his wife so quickly, only with very little substantial evidence that there's a parking ticket in front of a hotel and the offhand account that somebody saw the guy at the hotel with his wife. Not together, mind you, just the same day. And again, like I said, John Travolta goes down the hole so fast of, well, that's it. I have to kill my best friend and I have to kill my wife. And that's it. So Frank doesn't do anything there, but nope, John Travolta kills the best friend and the wife, who you figure definitely deserves to get killed by Frank because she's the one that set the hit up and wanted the whole family dead. Nope, John Travolta just chucks her off the balcony and she dies by the train. And I can't tell if the movie wants me to feel sorry that the two of them died because of like the innocence that they didn't do anything wrong and that John Travolta killed them because of the wrong thing. It's like, no, they all deserve to die. Like the buddy went to the house and killed everybody. The wife is the one that wanted them all dead. John Travolta only wanted to kill, Thomas Jane. So it's like, it doesn't make, like, am I supposed to feel sad that she got thrown off the train tracks and run over? Like, I don't think that's a thing I'm particularly like sad about. I don't think I'm supposed to be, but like the way it's kind of like set up is like, it's like this tragic thing. And I don't know. And then the last bit of the movie is the only bit of punishing that he does, where he sets up bombs in the car park. He kills all of his goons at the dealership. He kills his son, the second son that he's got. Mind you, John Travolta doesn't even bother about his second son. Must not like him because he just runs away. Leaves the son inside the building. Doesn't even wonder what the hell happened to him. Guess he cared about the first son from the beginning of the movie more. And then he kills John Travolta, and that's it. He shoots him, and that's it. And the best we get is him killing people with a bow and arrow, all Rambo style. And then basically at that point, he comes to the realization that, yeah, the law can't handle people who commit crimes. They need to be punished. Call me the Punisher. And that's where the movie ends. And then it's like, yeah, okay, next time we might get Frank Castle doing his Frank Castleisms. And it's like, again, this is the wrong thing. You can't have a whole movie about the origin story. This is like if Spider-Man ended the first movie off with him killing Uncle Ben's killer, but the whole movie was him looking for the killer and not being Spider-Man. Like, it just wouldn't have worked. You know what I mean? Like, we paid to see the Punisher, not guy who slightly punishes people, but not really, but kind of does near the end. But next time he got you. And to that, I don't know. I just didn't think it was all that good. Also, it kind of like pauses for a bit. Like, he's setting up all this stuff to set up the best friend and the wife. And then it kind of pauses so that he can have moments with Rebecca Romijn and the guys in the house. They're pretty okay characters. They're not from the comics or anything from what I could figure. But they seem to like him a lot. Although their reasoning for helping him is weak too, because it's like, so they know who he is, they feel sorry for him, and so they try to like extend an olive branch and be friends with him. But he doesn't really want friends. He's kind of okay just drinking and being miserable, and that's understandable. Mind you, he doesn't really talk too much after his family dies, which is tough, because that's the tricky part about this. It's like, how do you have the character be like quippy or any kind of like badassness if his wife just died? Isn't he more obsessed with that and thinking about it? So it's complicated, but like, he doesn't really do anything to these people, and yet they're willing to lay down their lives for him. Like, they come in to wonder where he is, and they pull out the guy's piercings and stuff, and even Frank says, like, I don't know you from the hole in the ground, like, why would you help me? And he's like, we're family. I was like, family? Okay, that's kind of, okay, slow down there, Vin Diesel. We need to redefine what family means, because Frank is like just your neighbor, and you guys are being way too nice to him, and he doesn't want anything to do with you people. Like, I don't know, like, it didn't feel, I don't know, there needed to be like a bigger time jump, or there needed to be something where like he spoke to them, because I don't know, Frank is like a one-man mission type deal, and like even in the comics where he's got like Micro helping him and stuff, like they're barely friends, they're a means to an end kind of a thing. It's like Blade and Whistler, they work together, they probably have some sort of like feelings towards each other as like buddies and brothers in arms, but other than that there's nothing more to say, and it's just a hard character to get like emotion from. So these three just kind of feel like they threw this in there to kind of like, I don't know, add sympathy for him and give people an emotion to kind of look at him. And I didn't really feel that. You could have cut them all out and it wouldn't have made much of a difference, I think. But like, the revenge bit doesn't even make sense. Like, you'd think he's going to go after like everyone in the organization, and there's going to be like these really cool kills or like really cool punishments things where like he beats the crap out of someone or does something cool. But no, there's nothing. He just sets up the best friend and the wife, and then he just kills everybody in the thing. Don't get me wrong, some of the shots near the end are cool. He shoots everybody with the bow and arrow through the neck and stuff. That's cool. He blows people up. But there's nothing like remotely like violent. I mean, the most violent kill we get with him is where he shoves a knife up a guy's mouth and you see it. It's a cool practical effect. But that's about it. And then the only other reason why the movie's rated R is because John Travolta throws out some F-bombs in, like, the dumbest... Like, and they used their first one. Like, I was wondering, I was like, why is the movie rated R? Like, it hasn't been, like, overtly bloody or heavily violent yet. And the only thing we've got is one F-bomb where the guy acts as the best friend if he wants help finding underwear, and he tells him to F off. And I was like, that's what we blew the F-bomb on? Like, that's what we're wasting the thing? And then John Travolta throws a few in there, and it's just, again, I can't take John Travolta seriously as it. Things that I like about the movie. I do like the setup. I think the setup was strong. By killing off everybody, it sets them up on a better revenge binge than you could have been if it just was the wife and the kid. But also by having all those people there, I think they kind of also screwed themselves, because by having so many people, it was hard to kind of gauge on who we're supposed to really care about. And if it had just been the wife and the kid, and we maybe had spent a little bit more time with them in the opening than the whole family reunion trip, maybe their deaths would have felt even stronger. I mean, looking at something like Daredevil years later, where we don't even see Frank Castle's family die on screen, they've already died, but we still feel the emotion there when he tells the story about his daughter. That's strong stuff, and that's good writing. Versus this, where it's like, yeah, they get run over, yeah, he runs up to them, that's sad and whatnot, but like, we barely spent time with them. It's hard to get a really good gauge on the feelings and stuff. And then he never talks about them again. So it's kind of hard, because after he becomes the Punisher, or I guess after he becomes, reborn or whatever, and he goes back to civilization, Frank doesn't really talk all that much. Like, he doesn't say much. He's very quiet. It's hard. And if you're hoping that this is more of a character that would speak with actions, he doesn't really do a whole lot. He sets up all this stuff where he interrogates all these people, but he never does anything specific, and he lets John Travolta do all the dirty work. And yeah, you could argue and say that that's kind of more messed up, that he tricked him into killing his friend and his wife, but also shame on John Travolta for being an idiot, because it's like, you knew Frank was alive. So I think it would have just been better if, like, they had just he'd come back in secret and you didn't know he was alive. This way you could have made it look like John Travolta was living the good life, everything was fine, and then suddenly things start going wrong and he can't explain it, and it's making him go nuts, because he knows at every turn when something goes wrong, it's Castle. And yet this thing he decides to fully go in and become obsessed with, and I just didn't believe it, and I just felt like it was stupid, and I was like, I don't feel satisfied, because this is the type of movie where it's like, okay, a bunch of people do some messed up things at the beginning, and there needs to be a big moment at the end where you cheer for the guy doing the cool thing, because it's like a horror movie where, like, the villain has killed all these people, some people that you like, some people that maybe you don't like, and they've taken the main character and they've stabbed him, shot him, thrown him through windows and all this stuff, and then there's a moment where, like, the hero or the last girl standing in these movies will come back and beat the crap out of the serial killer and the hooded figure or whatever, and you cheer and you get excited. And the Punisher doesn't really have that. Yeah, I guess after he burns Travolta up a little bit, it's kind of okay, but it doesn't make you like go, yeah, or it makes you feel earned. And like I said, the other deaths come at the hand of John Travolta, who couldn't act intimidating if, you beat his head in with a bat. I don't know. He's not very intimidating. It's just not John Travolta's fault. He's not that kind of an actor. He's not meant to be the bad guy. Also, again, like I said, when I first saw this, it was after Battlefield Earth. I couldn't take John Travolta seriously for like a good 10 years, so I still can't really take him seriously in this role. So like I said, I do like Thomas Jane. I would have liked to have seen him come back, if they'd given him, not 6 or 7 years of waiting, which sucked when they rebooted it. They probably also should have given him a villain from the comics, because this guy that Travolta's playing isn't even from the comics, which feels like a waste. So it feels like if you came here looking for Punisher stuff, yeah, you got it with him wearing the skull thing and whatnot, but, like, there's no Micro, there's no him going after criminals, being a superhero kind of a thing, or super vigilante, or whatever, there's no villain from the comics, so it just kind of feels like, okay, well, maybe next time they'll do all that, and that just kind of feels hollow. So in some ways, it's similar to Hulk, where it feels like, instead of just getting to the fun stuff and being the character, let's make a whole movie about the origin of the character, and it doesn't work, I think, in the way that they wanted to. And that result at the end of the script where it's like, now I'm going to go and hunt people that are bad. Like, I don't know if that's the meat of the lesson, or the lesson to be learned here. Like, yeah, you did your revenge thing, and then he tries to kill himself, and then he has a vision of his wife, and then he just says, okay, you know what, I'm going to go be a vigilante now. Okay, whatever. So like that, but I like Thomas Jane. I would have liked to have seen him come back. I think it might have been interesting. I like the score. It was done by an Italian gentleman who, it does sound like, it's got a very nice mellow beats in, like, the slower bits, but I do like the main theme It sounds like a mix of like the Godfather music in some way, which makes sense because it's a mob hit thing, so it kind of fits for that. And I think that's okay. That's good. Visually speaking, there's really nothing amazing about it. There's one shot of the Tampa Bay skyline. Get ready to take a shot every time they show that. I mean, dude, your B unit couldn't film another spot of the Tampa Bay skyline. It's the same shot throughout the whole movie. Like, come on. I think there's even one part where he's getting information about the money laundering operation, and we see a shot of them explaining it and what happens to it. And then when he goes to take the money, it's the same shot. Like come on, you couldn't like try to do it different. Like, it just repeated the same shot. Like, come on. I don't know. I liked this movie a lot more when I was a kid, maybe because I didn't have to think too much about it, and I thought it was pretty badass. But now it just kind of feels like the ending's not as good as I thought it was. It's not as rewarding as I used to feel when I was a kid, maybe. I still think it's an okay movie. It's nothing special. I don't think it's, like, god-awful in any sense. But I don't know. It's also hard to look at this now, post-Daredevil, having the Punisher done so well and correct versus what this was. But at the time, I guess this was considered okay. And I guess they also didn't want to make it like him be a massive killer and murdering everybody, because maybe it's hard to relate to that kind of a person. So that's why they didn't want him to go full tilt like killer. I don't know. Just it to me, it's kind of a wash. So should you try to hunt down watching The Punisher on Amazon's weird second streaming service? Well, technically, if you want to do the 7-day free trial and watch it, go ahead, because it was free. Would you rent it? Nah, you could probably skip this. It's really not worth watching, honestly. You'd be better off served watching Daredevil, the TV show later on with the Punisher, because I think that's just handled and done a lot more better to justice with the character. This is kind of like a swing and a miss kind of a deal. Maybe if they had, not spent the whole movie setting him up, and they had done more superhero things with him and more character things from the comic, and they didn't say, okay, next time we'll do it, maybe I'd be singing a different story. I'd say watch it just to see like where it goes, but because it's a one-off and the next movie is like a reboot that doesn't follow in this movie's continuity, it's kind of a wash. I looked at it because the Russian guy was actually in The Void in Deadpool and Wolverine. This actually isn't one of the Fox movies. This was Lionsgate's. So I guess this movie counts as part of the multiverse. So that's why we're watching it. So Thomas Jane's Punisher counts, and then they make a joke about multiple Punishers. So I'm willing to count both movies as separately being out there in the multiverse. So I'm okay with that. But overall, just not great. Not great movie. This is definitely a skip for me. Definitely I thought I liked it a lot more when I was younger. I don't know why. Maybe, like I said, because I was younger and I was stupid and I didn't know any better. The way it is now, it's going to be a pass for me. If you're interested in it and it sounds interesting, I'd say give it a watch. You can do that free trial thing, but I wouldn't spend top dollar on trying to find this movie and rent it, because it ain't worth it. If you see it on TV, go nuts. But you could probably skip this one. Thanks for listening, guys, and I will see you guys on the next one.